We also help them for admissions. We also help them for test scores, things like that. But, okay, when we get into the financial end, scholarship is something that you can earn, okay, which generally has to do with your academics, your artistic ability, your athletic ability, whatever activities you're in. There's scholarships for yearbook, things like that.
Hi, welcome to Beyond the Paycheck. I'm Paula Christine. So today we're going to talk about college and college prep and then college planning, because it is very, very expensive. And I know for myself, when I went through college, I had to pay for it myself with a little help from my parents, and then I got some student loans. And I know a lot of students today have to get a lot of student loans to get through. So my guest, Dr. Beasley, is here to tell us maybe a little bit why college is so expensive, and then how we can do it with maybe little debt as possible. So welcome.
Greetings. Nice to be here.
So tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, let's see. I went to college at Texas Christian University, go Frogs. I graduated from high school at the Marine Military Academy in Arlington, Texas. Had multiple scholarship offers and a West Point nomination, and I was 1 month too young to go to West Point, so they offered me an ROTC scholarship, so I took it. They said pick the school, and I went to TCU. They paid for it. I went in the Army. They got me involved in soldier education, and so one of my jobs was to find ways for soldiers to get college credit. I began to do a lot of research and became kind of an expert in it, and then developed a program for soldiers to get college credit, primarily through what is today Excelsior College. Back then was called New York Regents.
Okay.
And then when I was in active duty, I got my master's degree in 50 weeks, which is some kind of record.
Wow.
I did it with 7 other guys. We were getting ready to transition in the civilian sector and figured that we needed to get an MBA or something that would help us be more marketable. And it did work in the sense that the MBA got me the interviews, but they hired me for what I did in the Army, and that was training and development and things like that. And I held 2 civilian corporate jobs over a period of, 8 years. And that's what they hired me for. They hired me to do what I did in the Army. And then when I left the Army, I started a Ph.D. program and started in business, but I got kicked out of the business school. And so I went over to urban studies and ended up getting
wait. Why did you get kicked out of business school?
Well,
you can't drop that and not explain.
Okay. Well, they were going to require that I work as a full-time, poverty-driven teaching assistant or research assistant at $320 a month.
Oh, wow.
You know, and they said that there's no way I would be able to get a PhD and do the research by holding a full-time job. And that's, well, I had a full-time job because I had a mortgage and a car, and
right.
You know, and plus I was at that time I was in the Army Reserve, so I was taking 1 weekend a month and doing the reserve duty, and plus I was teaching part-time. And for them to say, you know, you can't do this, I said I'm going to go someplace else. And so I was a refugee to the Urban Studies Department, and they said fine, all their students are full-timers and working. And they had no problem with people working on their PhDs while they were working. In fact, they considered it an advantage, and it was, in my case, an advantage because in a business school, they didn't want me to draw any of my research from where I worked, whereas in the urban studies, they loved the fact that at that time, I was working at the Federal Reserve Bank, and I was doing strategic planning. I wrote my dissertation on the Federal Reserve Bank, how they were able to respond to the banking crises and the reorganization of the banking industry in the late 80s. Anyway, I went there, and I had to basically start from scratch, did my coursework, but it took me forever to get my dissertation through committee. In the meantime, I went to seminary to get a degree in Greek and Hebrew.
Wow.
I didn't go to seminary to become a preacher and a pastor. I went to seminary because of preachers and pastors, because I would get to a Bible verse, and I would say, well, the Bible says this. And they would go, well, yeah, but it's not that way in the Greek. It's not that way in the Hebrew. So my degree is in Greek and Hebrew. And it is that way in the Greek, and it is that way in the Hebrew. And so most pastors, when they have theological discussions, don't want to confront me. So anyway, I actually finished my seminary degree before I finished my PhD. And so I finished my seminary degree in 1990, finished my PhD in 1992. And so anyway, from there, I went from Federal Reserve Bank to Caltex Petroleum Corporation. I was international management consultant. Essentially, I was hired by a retired lieutenant colonel. He said, put a training and development program in here. I want in the military, we call it a 3-shop, S3, 3-shop. He said, I want a 3-shop in here. So I did international management consulting, and then I got kind of crazy. I've always had a dream of coaching football. I should have brought my ring so I could show it to you. I took an 82% pay cut to coach high school football and won the state championship in 1994. My first year as football coach. Everybody laughed at me when I said I was going to coach football. What do you know about football? I won the state championship, and then I stayed at that school for a year, and I was bumping heads with a lot of people in the school because I'm here. I got 2 doctoral degrees. I have no business sitting in a small private school. And I kept on trying to get these people, you got to get these kids ready for college, got to get these, and there was no real push. They called themselves college prep, but they weren't. And so I bumped heads, they fired me. And so when they fired me, 18 parents pulled their kids. That was all the A students in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grades. They pulled their kids and they said, you were the only person my kids learned anything from. Can we get you to teach kids? Well, I'm sitting here, I'm a state championship high school coach. I mean, I got offers all over the place, and kids would come up to me and, oh, please, Dr. Beasley, start a school for us. So I went and rented a Sunday school room in Duncanville, Texas, and I started school. And the next year we had 3 schools, and then the third year we had 9 schools, 580 kids. We used a satellite school program. Eventually the business grew to 22 college prep academies from Springfield, Massachusetts to Hot Springs, Arkansas to Palm Springs, California. And I was training students how to achieve better, work better, get college scholarships. We had people 13 years old graduating from high school. I had 16-year-olds graduating from college.
So how does someone work better to get better prepped for college? If you were talking to a parent, how would you suggest that they have their kids do that?
Well, number one, start early.
What's early?
Well, early, depending on, if you're an Ivy Leaguer, early is when you pick your spouse, okay? But generally, we want the kids to start doing college preparation stuff about the 6th grade. They start getting into volunteer programs. They start doing things to build their resume.
6th grade?
Yeah, 6th grade. I'm not saying they take college courses in 6th grade, but they start building a portfolio of formal volunteer work. They start building a portfolio working with Johns Hopkins Center for Talented Youth, and start developing this portfolio and working with the kids at the higher level, the kids who are operating at the higher gear, and starting to see what's available. And then when the Duke Talent Identification Program was still running, we used to put kids in the Duke TIP, and that would give them an advantage because once you go in the Duke TIP, you get on the college's radar. And so they're just things that you can do to start getting on the college radar early. And so then we tell them early on. For example, there is a certain level of lower PSATs. We tell them to take the lower PSATs because scoring high, again, gets you on the college radar. So the earlier you get on the college radar, the better. So we start getting pretty hardcore the summer before your freshman year, because we've estimated that if you're not in a formal, deliberate college preparation strategy program, the first day of the 9th grade, you're losing $100 a day. Okay? Because people say, oh, we will figure something out, or we'll get around to it, or something will come up.
Being a kid and having fun.
You can have fun if you do this right. My kids have more fun than the other kids because they have more time, they have more opportunities, they get to go and do things the other kids don't get to do. Okay, This is not hide them in the room and work them to death. No, most of our kids. Well, like I said, I had kids that graduated high school at 13, graduated college at 16. I had 19-year-olds enter medical school, and an 18-year-old sit for the California bar and pass it. Okay, what you do is you got to get these kids' engines running, because what you don't, they don't understand. How old do you think John Adams was when he started college? He was 14. Thomas Jefferson was 14. Okay, and their requirements to get into college is the equivalent. They would have to be at today's equivalent of a junior college education just to get into college. And so kids can do this. The biggest problem that we have in conventional school, and I lump private schools and public schools into conventional schools because public schools pretty much do what private schools, private schools do pretty much what public schools do. You just lump them in, and they follow a course. And you've got maybe 10% of the kids who are getting it. You got 40% of the kids who are bored and they're just sitting there, and 50% of the kids once they miss it and they can't catch up. Okay, they don't do any what's called formative training. They don't sit there and say, listen, the mission is learning. So you're going to learn this. Now, it may take you longer, but you're going to learn this. But they don't do that. It says, okay, you got so many class sessions to do this, and then we do an accounting drill on you. Now, some kids take longer, okay, but that's not factored into the education program. So in my school, we only had 2 grades.
I agree our school system is broken, but we're not going to fix that right here today.
No,
So
we're not going to fix it.
For step 1 is to start early. What would
Start
be
early.
step number 2?
Step number 2. Okay, now, if it depends on, there's a lot of it depends, okay?
Okay.
What do you want? We've got 4 common trajectories. It's you want to go to competitive college, you want to go to a conventional college, which, is a typical state college or even regional private college. You want to go to a community college, you want to go to what's called a creative college. There's a lot of creative colleges out there where I've had one student actually finish his college degree in 6 months.
Well, let's figure just a regular conventional college. What would
And
step
just
number 2
regular
be?
conventional college. So you've got several conventional colleges from that. Okay. Now, the thing that we're looking for, we got 3 strategies that we work with. We have what's called a preparation strategy. We have a positioning strategy. So what we do is that in your preparation strategy, we want to look at financial preparation, because what's good for your taxes is going to be bad for college. For financial aid.
Elaborate on that for a second.
Okay, but you can do a lot of things that are going to cut down your tax exposure by transferring money to your kid. But when it comes time for the kid to apply for aid, he's got this money, and that's going to hurt him because they think that he should be able to pay all that. Okay.
Right.
So then we have we want to look at academic strategies, taking the right courses, the appropriate courses. We have a success strategy where they need to learn time management. They need to learn how to take notes. You need to have parents involved. Parents really need to be involved, other than how'd you do in school today? Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's
or
a
get
tough
mad
one.
at get mad at them if they make a bad grade. I mean, that's not parental involvement. Okay, so we have a process of getting parental involved. And finally, there's a test strategy. Which tests are you going to take? Not just SAT and ACT, but are you going to take AP? Are you going to take IB? Are you going to take CLIP? Are you going to take Gantes? How are you? What are the testing things that you're going to do to line up? Okay.
The program that you have, is it for the kids that are that 10% that are getting it, or is for all kids?
It's for all kids. We've taken kids. I mean, in our program, we have taken kids who have learning disabilities and got them to college on scholarship. We've taken kids who are on the spectrum and gotten them into scholarships, gotten into college on full scholarships. We had a Down syndrome kid. We got him into junior college. And so it worked, and it works for everybody. It's like a tricycle. Once you get on it, all you have to do is keep your balance and go.
Okay, so step 1 is to start young. Step 2 is to then look at the financials.
You've got to get into a strategy. Finance is just
it's the same thing like when you're planning for anything. Like most people plan more for a vacation than they do for their own finances.
That's right. That's right.
So so you start planning young, and
okay. So then we start working on making sure you're going to have metrics. Okay, so you got to look at grades. You got to look at recognition, what kind of recognition you get. So we put the kids into the President's Volunteer Service Program, the Congressional Award Program. These things are national level awards. Okay, we want them to be able to put on their resume instead of saying, "Well, I worked at the soup kitchen and the food bank." We're going to say, "I received the Presidential Volunteer Service Award for my work at the food bank," and same thing with the Congressional Award. Congressional Award. And when you hit the gold level, your congressman in D.C. Awards it to you, and those guys tend to write letters of recommendation. We had one student who got bumped into Cornell basically because his congressman wrote him a letter. And so you've got to go with these what we call macro strategies. So your recognition, your experiences. Okay, what did you work? Did you travel? Then your activities. Were you in band? Were you in football? Were you in drill team or whatever? Okay, and then it gets back to
what do you do for kids that don't have the privilege to say travel and?
But you don't always have to have. These are just different things that you can do.
Okay.
If you don't have, well, let me give you an example. We had a young lady in California, and I remember her because one of the things that we do is when you write your essay, you have to have a punchline, which pulls the people in. Her punchline said, "At the age of 12, I became a single parent." Okay, so
wow, she's raising siblings.
Yeah. So what happened was that mom was an invalid and dad left. And so she had to take care of her 4 siblings. And so in her essay, she said, at the age of 12, I became a single parent, and said, I couldn't participate in all this other stuff. I did what I could, but I had to come home and take care of my siblings. But I did things. I entered writing contests, or won writing contests. I made good grades. And so so I was the counselor of record. And so they called me, University of Central Florida, because that's her target school, because she wanted to do engineering to build amusement park rides, which is a program they had there, because they're near Disney World, okay? So the admissions person called me and says, is all of this true? And I go, yes, it's true. And the lady was almost in tears when she said, we got to do something for this girl. And she got a full scholarship to Central Florida.
Wow.
Okay, and so it doesn't matter, but it's what matters is what you do with what you have. You can always volunteer, and you can get into these programs for free. There's so much stuff that you can do that doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, well, I think all about life is it doesn't matter what you have, it's what you do with what you have.
It's fast, what you do with it,
So from what I'm understanding is you work with them to help them get scholarships and potentially grants. What's the difference between a scholarship and a grant?
Okay, let me back up a little bit. We also help them for admissions. We also help them for test scores, things like that. But, okay, when we get into the financial end, a scholarship is something that you can earn. Okay, which generally has to do with your academics, your artistic ability, your athletic ability, whatever activities you're in. There's scholarships for yearbook, things like that. We primarily focus on academic, that if you've got a certain GPA and a certain test score, some of these colleges will automatically give you a scholarship. The University of Alabama, Roll Tide, Alabama, with a 3.5 GPA and a 32 ACT will get you $112,000 in scholarship automatically.
Wow.
There's many of those schools out there that have automatic scholarships. Okay, and people don't know about it. I've had 100 people, more than 100 people, get that Alabama scholarship. Okay, that's all you had to do. You had to have 2 markers. That's it.
Wow.
And they scale down they have smaller scholarships scaled down.
So where were you when I was going to school?
Oh, you know what? I wish I had a nickel every time they said that. I was going to college for free. Okay, that's what happened to me, because I didn't pay for my MBA. Yeah, I didn't pay for my Ph.D.
Yeah, I didn't go to school for free. So.
And then, I put my wife and her 2 daughters, all 3 of them, through college for a total of $30,000 total out of pocket.
So what is a grant?
Okay, a grant is something that you qualify for or the school offers you. Okay, grants are not tied to academic performance, so generally tied to the student situation, primarily income. A Pell Grant is based on income. Most of the grants that are offered to colleges or by colleges are based on income. For example, Harvard. Harvard provides, they call it a scholarship, but it's a grant. It's a need-based grant. If your income is under $80,000, the parental part of that is $0. You'll go for free, including room and board. Okay, and that's scaled
under
up to
80,000.
Yeah, under 80,000.
Wow.
And then it scales up to 150. At 150, they'll cover tuition, and then it's prorated between 150 350,000. Very few people pay full freight at Harvard. Okay, so if you get in, and you're going to be able to pay for it. Okay, Harvard is one of the most affordable colleges in the country. There are colleges that. Oh yeah.
No way.
Oh, well, my wife went to Harvard.
I think I think through this whole podcast, all I keep going is, "Wow, really?" I mean, I'm really shocked about the things that you're talking about, because
my
nobody knows this stuff.
Well, I do. Okay, so
yeah, but I didn't know you until yesterday.
Yeah, but Harvard. My wife went to Harvard. When I married my wife, she was a high school dropout. She actually graduated from one of my high schools. I signed her high school diploma. This was before we got married. And then she ended up going to Harvard on a full scholarship. I paid $22,000 for her Harvard degree. Most of that was the apartment in Cambridge. She graduated with honors, 3.88. Went up there, walked through the ceremony, the whole enchilada. Okay, and $22,000 was my out-of-pocket expense. Most of that was airfare and travel and the apartment in Cambridge.
Okay, Dr. Beasley. So how does somebody get a hold of you? Because there's so much more that I'm sure we could go into, but how does someone get a hold of you and
They go to my website, BeasleyCollegePrep.com. Just go to my website. They can set up a personal interview. Now, I do have to put a caveat. I've had people stampede me after one of these things, and I got like 100 people. So if there's going to be a lot of people, then I'll do a webinar for them. Okay. But if we have just a handful of people, then I'll give them all a 30-minute freebie, just to get them showing that there's more to this than what other people tell you. Because if you're going to your high school counselor, they don't know about this. They didn't get scholarships. They didn't help anybody else get scholarships, and somebody did. It was by accident. So they don't know, and so they can't tell you. And most of them are stuck on just a handful of particular colleges that they feel comfortable with, and they don't get beyond that.
Do you only work with people of a certain age? Like if somebody's, an adult that wants to go back to school, you can help
No,
them?
I work with people going to med school. I got 4 med schools. I work with people going to law school. I had an engineer say I want to go to law school, and in mid-career, I've done that. I've taken people another engineer who decided he wanted to be a doctor, and we flipped him at the age of 38 to go to medical school. I had a 58-year-old lawyer say he wanted to go to vet school. We flipped him, got him into vet school, oldest vet graduate. And so, and I do a lot of stuff with particularly adults who need to they hit the glass ceiling, and they need to have any kind of degree to get past the glass ceiling.
Right. So do you work with anybody in any state?
Well, I work with people in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is on the Caspian Sea. I have clients in Cambodia, North Vietnam, I guess it's all Vietnam now, Namibia, Nepal, Korea, all over the United States, all over Latin America, Canada. All we need is an internet connection because I do everything by Zoom. I've had kids in Nairobi and then Nigeria, Johannesburg. Doesn't matter. If you want to go, as long as we get an internet connection, we can do this.
Okay. I'm fascinated talking to you because I didn't know any of this. And when my kids were going through college, I wish I would have known you.
Yeah. Again, if I had a nickel,
I'm too late on that one, but it's been fascinating, the stuff you told me. I will be spreading the word for sure.
Oh, good.
For, all my friends that still have kids and that are getting ready to go to college. But what really surprised me was the whole 6th grade thing, but I guess it doesn't hurt. What do I want to say? What's the term? It doesn't hurt to start early?
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to start. Our sweet spot really is sophomore year because you still have time if you start the sophomore year to get all of the big things done.
Okay.
Because after that, you just flat out don't have the time to do it. So things are going to fall off the plate. And so if the things start falling off the plate, your value to a college that's going to want to give you a lot of money begins to drop. Our record right now is we had one kid get $1.72 million in scholarship offers, 16 full scholarship offers.
Wow.
And I've had several people become $1 million babies.
Wow.
So once you've hit the soft spot, once you hit the vein, you just apply to the other schools. Your big scholarship from the high-profile school leverages you into scholarships from these other schools because they'll start to want to bid on you.
Wow. Okay, well, we got to get going or my producer will start to yell at me.
Okay.
So, again, great information. Listen, I will be telling everybody I know. Because too many people are in debt from going to college, and it sounds like they don't have to.
Yeah. The kids today won't be able to pay off their debt. They have to use their life insurance to pay off the debt.
Oh, well, let's not go that far. Okay.
Actually, there's a lot of validity to that.
Well, I hope so. I hope that's not what happens. But anyway, thanks again, Dr. Beasley, for joining us. If anybody would like to reach out to me, they can reach out to me at paula@paulachristine.com or check out my website at paulachristine.com. Thanks again.